So welcome, Peter, to this episode of Power Up the Business podcast, mate. Thanks for sharing your time.
You're welcome. No problem at all.
Now, great story, and Peter being a long time client of ours, and it's been great. I think the last 6 years or so, really assisting you on your business journey. And you've got a really interesting story, starting with you're now running a third generation business. It started in the 1960s, correct? And then you taking the reins around that 2009, 2010 period. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Worked with Dad did my apprenticeship with my father and worked together for close to 13, 14 years with my father, which was hard but fair.
The old school, right? It's just like, shut up, don't say anything, just dig.
Yeah, dig or work. And if I made a mistake, I'd hear about it at the dinner table all night and couldn't get away from any mistakes. There was no hiding from them.
Yeah, there's no cotton wool, wrap yourself in cotton wool back in those days, was there? It was just like, just cop it sweet. You made a mistake, come on. And then with that, the learnings of that, and I suppose, because, in that generation, so how did your dad, the learnings, so this is a key thing for any tradies, generally we learn off who we've done our apprenticeship with. We learn how to operate business through not only, obviously the skill set of the trade, but also how people do business, how they operate with customers. How did your dad operate the business?
He would just say, he'd just work 7 days a week, really. Like growing up, I could count, he might have like 2 weekends off a year that he was home. And that's, late days, he'd be up early. And just when he retired, he didn't really have much of a hobby, because all he did was work, for his whole working life. Just worked 7 days a week and put everything he could into it, physically. So.
And how was that? What was it? One of the takeaways then for you? Like, that's obviously, he sets the example of work ethic.
Yeah.
He obviously is very much, I'm going to be focused on the work and let's do let's work hard.
Yep.
And that's cool to a degree, but then you've got to actually work intelligently. But how was that? Yeah. Like, not seeing him too much. And obviously, for you guys, probably not too many family holidays.
Exactly. I think we had like 2 family holidays in our lifetime, maybe a couple more, but 2 that I can remember. And he wasn't around a whole lot. And I think that, unfortunate. And then when I took over, I started doing the same thing, because that's all I knew how. And I knew how to work and work hard, but then we moved homes and we had a baby. I think it was 2013. That's when I first spoke to you. And I went away for a Christmas holiday and I was just exhausted, like with the Christmas rush and stuff. And I thought, I better start changing what I'm doing, because I'm turning into, it's repeating itself, history repeating itself. And I was missing like bath time. I was missing everything with my baby. So I just went, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to, there's no point having a family if you're going to miss everything, every part of them, just at work.
Not going to be there. And so, so that initial 3-4 year period, you were copying exactly as you were taught, copying exactly as you experienced, right? So you're just working hard. You're pretty much saying yes to a lot of things and not being there. And then that realization came where you had kids, family, obviously probably, discussions with your wife as well, saying, what's this all about? Where's the end game for this? Is this what it's going to be like for the next X amount of years? And so that real catalyst then for change came about. I know that, you were sort of looking at that job management system, right? But obviously you had that gnawing feeling that you just couldn't keep going like this. And obviously one of the things is that you didn't want to end up like your dad. But what were some other things that were really playing on your mind in those early days for operating that business? Again, given that there is that pressure on board, right? It's been operating since the 1960s.
Yeah.
So it's been operating for decades. So you're probably thinking, wow, like that's pressure to maintain that. That Hills Electrical brand.
Yeah, you want to make my grandfather and my father proud of me as well. So the only way I could make my dad was work by working hard and work long hours and stuff. That's all he knew. And then realization that in these days you can't really do it. You can, but it's not the normal thing to do anymore. I don't think. Well, from my point of view, it isn't. So I want to just find a jobs management software. And when I was filling in that form, one of the things was they asked if you'd like a business, if you're open to having a business coach, and I wrote yes, because I just didn't really want to go back to work that year. I was just at that point where
you're fried.
I was fried, and you had to go and do it all again. And we had a few employees by then, and I think part of it was that compliance, like knowing that you're doing the right thing. He's going to come back and bite you. Are you compliant? Like, is your payroll done right? And I was doing my payroll on Sunday mornings, and as it grew, it turned into quite a job. Like when there was one person, it was all right, but there were like 3 or 4 people to do payroll. Was I doing it right? Was I paying the super right? But I wasn't trained to do all that. So
no, that's right, because you're trained on the job. That's where, in your comfort zone, that's what we talk about. You're in the comfort zone. You're really in your comfort zone, working hard. You had no idea about the business. That's where a lot of people get into trouble. And you're in that standard journey where you're operating the gig by yourself around that 3, 4, 5 year period, which is generally a threshold where it's around. There's a lot of stats out there for new business failures or businesses failing. About 80% of business fail within the first 5 years. And generally it comes down exactly where the crossroads that you come to, where it's like, I just can't keep going anymore. It's like Christmas time. I don't want to go back, because it's what am I going to do this for another year, another decade? Is this what it's about? And that classic, I went into business because, for most who didn't pick up a generational business, but, I started a business, I want more time, more money. And it's great that, you were starting to look, and this is where a lot of people do look. That's their natural thing. They want to change their business. So their first sort of point of call is generally a job management system. But as you know, that's only one part of the puzzle. But on that journey again, to getting away from just that, the long hours working hard and knowing that, okay, where's the end game here? Because one of the things I know that early on you had very clear goals that we were working towards. So just share some of the key drivers of change. And this is where a lot of people, they don't make the necessary changes because they haven't got a vision. They're not working towards anything. They're not really working towards anything substantial, both personally, professionally, or a family point of view. But just relate and clarify those clear goals when we started, around that 2015, what you were trying to achieve.
Yeah. So first of all, I think you went through a process and found out a whole lot of things that I knew I didn't know. Like you'd ask me questions, I wouldn't have a clue what the answers were. But then we got through a bit of that, a few frights along the way, and then we made a 5-year plan of financially, and lifestyle of what we wanted. And one of them was we wanted to pay the house off by the time I think it was 5 years was by the time my daughter went to school.
Yeah.
And so we really just knuckled down and worked our way backwards from that. We just made budgets per year that we needed to turn over this much profit to achieve it.
And then obviously the other goal in there was also get out of the home office. Agree. You're working from home too hard. The boys coming over, the kids there, the wife's there. Just there was no freedom, right? There was no disconnect.
Waking up the baby. Yep. There's no disconnect at all. Like just if I was home, I was working. If I was at work, I was working. You walk out into the garage and you're reminded of all the tools and all the equipment. You just couldn't get away. You mentally couldn't get away from it.
And that's where you get to that fried stage where it's just like, this is just, again, just like your dad, right? It's just like, here we go. It's just, I've got nothing else. It's just work. And this is where we very clearly with our methodology, as you know, in the program, work is secondary, right? We're using work to drive our lifestyle and our life and experiences and family. And you've done a great job of that. But just so with that there, in that, those clear goals that we're really working towards, because at that time, again, working hard, that frustration over that journey now, again, you sort of alluded to, especially making that change and getting you really uncomfortable again, like some of the numbers I was talking to you about, how are you financially? You had, 0 out of 10 pretty much, right? Your chart of accounts, your zero, it's not terrible. No real understanding of the type of client that you wanted to work towards. You're pretty much saying yes to everything. You didn't have an understanding about how to really build that team and empower the team, it was very much, hey, have you got a license or a heartbeat? Yeah, come work for me type scenario. Agree?
Yep.
And by not understanding that sort of information, again, then you become enslaved to the job. Just explain the difficulty and some of the tough times again. And again, because everyone just listening, I'll just explain to where obviously Peter is now and the great job he's the transition. But how was it getting uncomfortable? Getting sort of looking in the spotlight to say, shit, I've got to change here big time. Otherwise, I'm in for a rocky road ahead.
It was scary not knowing the answers that you should know for sure about your business. I didn't know much at all about it, to be honest, and just I wasn't even sure if I was sending invoices. I was missing stuff. Wasn't invoicing for months on end sometimes. But it felt like I was making money.
Yeah, because there's money in the bank. There's no money in the bank, right? But that was that false sense of security, right? This is where, like, in the tradie mindset, where you think it's all about the job. The false sense of security is I must be making money because I'm busy.
Yep.
But again, a lot of the time you don't know if you are making sure you're getting all the variations processed. Are my invoices processed? Am I getting paid? Because you're just in that cycle. But hey, I've got a full deck. Next week I'm busy every day. I'm going to be killing it. But essentially, though, at that stage, you didn't really realize, am I going to actually move forward in business now? So over the course of that, again, just sort of fast tracking it now in terms of over that journey that we've been on, and that the journey that I suppose of that self-discovery as a business owner, business leader, coming back to around that 2019 sort of stage, and how'd you go with those goals? Having those goals there, what did you tick off from a business point of view and a personal point of view?
Well, the business can run quite well without me. I think I've still got a part in it, and if not every part of the business isn't spinning, something's going to miss. Like something's missed out. So I'm still involved in some parts of it, but I can go away for a week or two. Had some good family holidays away, and come back, and it's run pretty seamlessly. Financially, we've got the house isn't a big pressure point now. The mortgage isn't a big pressure point on our family. And just at the team's strong, and we've got a good core group around us that customers like and contact directly, rather than a lot of it goes communications without me now. A lot of it, so built some good processes
around the team. I'm going to dive into some of those direct processes, and then obviously then too with the other key aspect too, which is actually identifying that A-class customer as well, which you've done a really good job on building the relationships, which I'm going to tap into. But the key thing I want everyone to hear about here, which I want to dive into as well, is that 2018, and again in your words, right? In your words, and this is where everyone's got to be really careful, is that you tick a lot of boxes, you get to that 5-year plan, or you tick the box. It's not to say that you're resting on your laurels and you're leaning back in the chair and saying, how good am I? And everything's cool now, and I don't need to worry about the little habits and the little 1%ers that got me here. But essentially, I know that in good discussion, especially in our community, is that you're talking about getting distracted, looking at solar, looking at social media, what are other people doing, and essentially for a 12-month period. And this is what I want everyone to sort of understand. So Peter's done a great job of building the business up to $1 million, $2 million plus business with really good profitability. It's a good solid foundation and good management. But then in the course of 12 months, you've essentially took the eye off the ball. Your revenue dropped, your profitability went through the floor, and in your words, for that year, you would have been better off working at McDonald's.
Yeah. That year, so 2018 was really strong year, and then 2019, like you said, started just playing around with social media and things like that, and it's not my forte. So I started looking at all these things and taking everyone's opinion on board. And getting distracted by, I think we call it the shining lights, and I was looking around at everything else that could, help us. We thought would help us. We spent a lot of money and time on a new software implementation, which was a massive failure. So we just kept all these distractions and just.
And you're looking at the solar. Remember, you went down the solar,
Yeah.
tried to get registered in solar, and
looked at solar because everyone's saying, oh, you do solar, make some money, like make good money, and do this and do
jump
that.
on a Bitcoin. Bitcoin's great.
Should I
Just
do
jump
that?
on that, and
just everything, isn't it? Like you just, I think because we got to that point that we achieved what we first set out to do, and then started looking around, what are we going to do next, kind of thing, and then took your eye off the ball only for a while by looking at other things, but got so distracted that we lost focus on what we're good at. Like looking at other builders that do, we spent a bit like time and effort into them as well, like just low margin, high volume work, and it's just not us. So you're just thinking of all these distractions across everything but what we're good at.
Yeah, you went away, and this is the thing I want to just really touch on. You went away from the principles and the habits, and again, coming back to the way we do it here, the very clear values of what made you successful for 5 years.
Yep.
And this is where I want, really every business owner, we all get caught up on it. Social media, the next big thing, jump on the next big thing. We've got to be very clear is pretty much your profitability and your golden egg, or that, the golden goose, as it were, is pretty much right in front of you. But sometimes you think, oh no, I've got to look elsewhere. And the only way, and I wrote in my book, in the Power of Trading Business book, I talk about, there's a little quote from Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. So when Bill Gates and Warren Buffett first met, they had dinner at Bill Gates's place, and Bill Gates's mother put on the dinner. And during the course of the dinner, Bill Gates's mum said, "What do you guys think? What's the number one secret to success?" And both Bill Gates and Warren Buffett at the same time just said, "Focus." Very clearly, focus is the key to success. And Warren Buffett, another good quote from Warren Buffett, basically says, to be successful, you've got to say no to a lot of great opportunities, potential great opportunities. Yeah, that's a great opportunity, but not for me right now. I've got to focus on this. And that's where you got caught into it. Like, looking, going back and saying yes to other clients or other opportunities, right? And you just got away from the core fundamentals of what build up that success. And then ultimately, again, your financial performance went through the floor. But this is a cool thing, though. This is a great thing. I want you, especially listeners, is that, because you knew the foundations and you knew the habits, and we had the infrastructure in place or the assets in place to run a really successful business, tapping back into that in 2020. And just to give everyone a bit of an insight into, and I'll let Peter talk about some of the things, but I just want to give you the results. So after 2019, it was a dead set failure. It was a shocker. Revenue plummeted, profit just went through the floor, just from a percentage increase over, just by getting back to some of these habits, which again, I'll get Peter to explain, but there was a 48% increase in revenue, which is awesome. But more importantly, the net profit increased by 225%. So it was a massive, massive increase in net profit. And then some other key aspects about getting back, putting the structure in place is your stress levels. I was up around that 9 or 10, correct, Pete? And it's just gone down to around that 3, back to manageable. And confidence in the future, has gone from, again, low at 3, and now it's back up to around that 9 and 10. Because you're tuning back into the community as well. You're getting back into the support that's required, but in a very short space of time, by clicking back into the groove and getting the key success habits in play, you're able to then tap back into and now really get back in terms of driving a profitable business. Now, the 3 key things I want to sort of talk about, right? The 3 key areas that we look at. Number 1 is the performance, right? So I want you to talk about number 1, the performance, which in terms of some of the success habits, sales pipeline. Okay. I want to talk about things that also I want you to explain about your real focus on your A-class clients, those profitable clients that, you want to love for a long time. And then also really important that for everyone to really hear some of the processes and what Peter's investing in your team. And I want you to explain on that. So rolling back. So number 1, so from a performance point of view, which is around financials, what are some of those, getting back to that regular habits around how important is, how we, from our methodology, how are we tracking, making sure we've got a 12-month profit plan. How's that really drilled into your focus on a weekly basis and implement that into the business?
It's everything to the business now. So every fortnight I do a how we're tracking report, which is available from the Cube software. Download it, have a look at it every on a Thursday morning. I'll get up early, look at that, dig into it, and anything goes red, look at it. Anything that's outside the budget, have a real good look at those, make some notes and comments on the side of it, and then dig into it a bit further. Like then you can, by doing that, you just click onto your account code in Xero, and you can look at the transactions, like what's happening here, what's happening there. Maybe we've missed a payment. Maybe we haven't paid someone, so it's green or whatever. Which means in most cases we'd say a good thing, but I just make sure we haven't missed a payment to someone, or maybe a bill hasn't arrived. To make sure every line item we've got a lot of a large chart of accounts, but it makes it so easy to understand our business. If what's happening is by looking at numbers, you can understand all the little bits of the business.
And just want to touch on that more. And again, for everyone listening to this podcast, Pete's got a lot on. There's a lot of jobs on, but the key focus, for you, mate, is obviously knowing the numbers, and that then allows you to make better decisions, right? So you're not just running, knee jerk in terms of being reactive. It's very much fundamentally every decision is based off fact, and you're doing a great job now of getting back into your scorecard, right?
Yeah.
So what you're talking about now is you've got to make sure your scorecard is absolutely correct, and the transactions are correct, and the bills are entered, everything's invoiced, and you're measuring that against your budget. And if we're spending too much, what's going on there? Who's buying that? Or, where's that being allocated to? So how's that, just in terms of your confidence now, as part of that, your growing confidence, again, as a leader, using those numbers, right? So this is a key thing. I want everyone, you've done a great job. And again, on your journey over the last 6 years, from, again, not even knowing a number and really being hesitant and really sort of pushing back to a degree back in the early days, now to really understanding and readopting the processes. Like, how's that just been as giving that confidence or that peace of mind, knowing that, what, when you shut the business door at the end of the day, you're in control. How does that go?
You feel tremendous. That anxiety disappears of not knowing where you are, and sometimes you hear people not wanting to look at the position they're in, or they haven't got stuff entered, or they haven't invoiced it out stuff. But like now, if we're behind, if I log into the Cube and we're not at a certain percentage as the month goes, or we address it. We can address it early. You don't have to wait until 2 months or 3 months. Every fortnight we're onto it. We're keeping an eye on spending, and the one, like it's all often said, but the 1%ers, like even yesterday, I was doing our how we're tracking report, and there's this. We've got 5 or 6 years of data now that we've built up, which you told me we would have when we first started, and I thought, what nonsense. What absolute nonsense. Like, why do I need this? Just in and out and tell me where we are. But now those so accurate, the budget's so accurate, the material costs, the fuel expenditure, what everything's costing is so close. And at 1% that we might save in materials or wages and salaries, it makes such a big difference to the profitability of the business.
Bottom line.
Yeah. So big.
And that's what I want people to understand. Like a 1%, especially as a business that's growing and good turnover, 1%, we're talking about $20,000, maybe $30,000 difference on the bottom line. And when we talk about the bottom line, everyone, we're talking about, your drawing as a wage. This is obviously once you take after tax. So this is about your return on business, return on investment as a business owner. And this is where a lot of people don't understand, because they're too busy all the time. I just got to get the jobs done, and they're not looking at the numbers. They don't understand these little 1%ers, the power of the 1%ers. That's the thing that can change your personal life around. And and obviously that too well. But it's amazing though how quickly you can sort of fall off the perch, right? But it's good that you've got back on it. The other thing around the numbers too, which is around the how we're tracking report too, because as you alluded to, you got a budget there. So every month you got a very clear number, sales target that you're accountable to achieve. then obviously that on that weekly or fortnightly, tapping into the sales pipeline, making sure you got enough business development activity. How's that internal habit driving performance and driving your clarity, and also driving your communication and accountability with your other key team members?
From the first time you showed me that tool, the sales pipeline, I absolutely loved it, and just that confidence it gives you going forward, and you work at it to drive it to the budget numbers. So we're working months and months in front of us of our leads, and
I think you're nearly like 5 or 6 months in the black, right? So meaning you're 5 or 6 months in advance, you're booked out to achieve your budget.
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah, yeah, which is like in today's climate, it's just I'm really proud of it, and proud that we've wanted so many people want to engage us to do the work, and won some good contracts, and it's just the best tool that a business could use, I think, is that sales pipeline, knowing you've got enough because it refers back to the budget, and we know we've got to do this X per month to pay the wage, but to get in front, but to be profitability, we need to be Y, and we aim to be Y all the time.
And I think the key thing now, like you're alluding to, and this is, we've done well because now you've got a model that works in terms of the percentages, the numbers, and getting back to, if we hit that top line number, it just is like cookie cutter approach, right? It comes in, this is what we pay, this is a percentage we pay on materials, percentage pay on subbies, percentage we pay on vehicles, percentage we pay on our team, and then we know, bang, we're going to hit the bottom line. So if we hit that sales budget, we know we can pretty much guarantee that we're going to deliver on the bottom line. And the great thing is, and this is what I want to sort of really allude to, is that you're not on the site, you don't have to be on the job site driving it right now. So 3 components as mentioned. So you're nailing the performance habits. Now it's about then getting that team to buy into that, right? And you've done a great job again with the way we do it here, and really inducting the team about your values, and these are our rules, and this is how we want to do things.
Yep.
How important is it now? And again, like say in those going through the pipeline, going through the Howard tracking report, having transparency and allowing your key team members to come in and actually assist you and drive you. Because again, a lot of business owners, they'll say, Jonesy, no, I don't want to share information. I don't want to give too much away. No, if I give too much away, then they'll take it and they'll run their own business, or they'll think I'm killing it. Which again, that's the dark ages mentality, right? The businesses that are doing well is exactly what you're doing, which is transparency, letting people in, allowing people to take ownership of it. But how's that really transformed the way that you approach business as opposed to your dad approach business? But also, how have you seen your key team members now, really take it and own it and live and breathe your business as well, just as much as you do?
I think it's like they're partners in the business. It's like it's their own business, and they treat the 1% as carefully as I do. Wait, sometimes more so. They take pride on delivering a job on time, and they obviously appreciate the customer feedback when it's good feedback. But you're showing people. Yeah, I think it's always a nervous thing to do. You're always a bit nervous when you first do it, but it gets easier. Like once you start, you get the right people that you trust involved in the business, and the same values. So with the values, with the way we do it here and stuff, they've got a big say in that. It's not just me getting on my soapbox and saying this is how we're going to do it. And we just revisited it before, maybe about a month ago, and we went around and I said, this is our old vision and purpose and values sheet that we live and die by, but
which is probably about 5 years old or 4 years old at that stage, probably.
Yeah, probably 3. I think we've been through it about 2 or 3 times. We just keep revising it. And this time I was handed it over to them, and we had a real good chat about it. Like, what do you want it to be? Not, this isn't me. Like, it's not just about me here. Like, what do you guys want Hills Electrical to be? Like, what beliefs, what values do you want? And I was trying to cut back on a lot of the ones that we already had, because I thought it was a bit wordy and stuff. But the consensus around the team was they really liked some of them, so they fought back for it. I was trying to cross them off to make it an easier document to remember, but they said no, I want that. I want to be accountable.
They're buying in it. That's great, isn't it?
Yeah. So that was a really I was really proud of the way the team communicated those values back to me.
And it's good. Like, I think the great thing, I really respect you as a leader. You want to build that team of people that, it's all about respect. It's all about, you want people to come into your organization and enjoy being there, and also go on the journey with you, and allow them to take it and run with it. And that's what you've done a great job over a long period of time. And it is hard to be able to essentially, get other people. A lot of people sort of struggle with allowing other people to sort of dictate, well, what should our values be, or what should we live and breathe by? And you've done that really well, doing that over a long period of time. And then especially, I suppose, solidifying it again over the last 6 to 12 months. Like, how's been the increase in performance? And again, the buzzwords, right? Their accountability, their ownership, and just essentially their like willingness to sort of step up and take it. Like, how's that been?
It's been tremendous. Like, our revenue's gone up by dramatically, and our wages bill hasn't really.
Yeah.
So they're nailing out the work. They're proud of it. They're doing a really good job of it. The leaders are really. We've got 2 team leaders. They're on a journey. They're learning. We're learning to let them lead, and they're learning to lead. And I try to encourage them to lead from the front, because that's the only way I know how. But there's other ways to lead too. I'm not the master of leading.
You're not wielding a big stick, right?
Yeah. I'm just used.
I think with the, you're right there. I just lost you. We'll just you're back there. Anyway, we'll just edit that little bit out anyway.
Okay.
So Silky just edited that out. Just talking to Silky, he's out. The key thing about it is, like, that's the thing. Like, every individual's got their unique personality, and it's not about, especially in this day and age, it's not about just one size fits all. And I think you do a good job there of of tapping into that individual and get the best out of them. And some people don't want to be leaders, and some people don't want to sort of take more responsibility, and that's fine. Every team needs certain people there in their role, and I think you're doing a really good job of getting him in that role. And I know, like, say, Ed and your key team members that you've got there, they really take big ownership, especially when we're talking about how we're tracking the 1% as a sales pipeline, things like that. They really step up, and just having someone there in that support as your right-hand man, as it were, how much sort of peace of mind and confidence does that give you? Again, it's a lonely big gig, right? It's a lonely gig running a business. It can be really hard. So having someone, as your right-hand man, in Ed, he does a great job. How great's that?
Yeah, it's been amazing having Ed around. He treats the business like it's his own, and he's such a nice person, and he's no ego, and he's a brilliant tradesman. And it's only this year we really got Ed to be running the operations manager. Which again, we're all learning. Like, so passing off responsibility. He's learning how to find his own way of delivering his requirements, and I'm learning to butt out of it.
That's right. You're learning to take the back seat. And look, one thing too that you've done really well, which again a lot of people might find interesting, is that you've actually invested in an outside consultant / coach, as it were, to help bring Ed along, which is great. You're really investing in Ed to ensure that Ed thrives in that role. You want him to succeed in that role, and you're investing in that. How's that been like? And how's Ed sort of appreciate that support from you investing in that individual to help him grow in the role? How's that been?
I think he's thriving in it. So he's driving, like, I pretty well run as you'd call it, the BD, like the sales.
Yep.
And filling up the pipeline. It's Ed's job to get the jobs done with the resources we've got in the time frame, in those months, and get the jobs done so the invoices can go out and stuff. So we have some really productive meetings. We've got like you said, we've got a consultant, Wally, that sits in with us.
Yep.
And he drives us both in some aspects of, if Ed and I are in the room, we're not going to talk about some of the harder things to talk about.
Yes.
But, and like if I say it's red and Ed's saying it's blue, and we'll nut it out and sort it out like men, and just business owners, and just get on with it, and might find a way to make it happen, which has been it's really good, just having an open dialogue.
It's great having that Wally there being objective, right? And again, just the key thing too is that often, sometimes, Ed may have some issues with certain things around you. He doesn't want to bounce something off you, whereas, he can go to Wally, right? So the good thing is, what I sort of highlight here is you're putting a bit of a support mechanism in for Ed as he grows into that role as well as for you as well, right? So that's great. And obviously, which is awesome. And then on the back of that, so with that there, you've got that team's really performing and you're nailing that. And as you said, your key thing is business development. Your key thing, the value to your business is solidifying those relationships that for some of them you've been managing as a business, for over 20 years. And again, you got a little bit distracted. You look at shiny objects, and it's all about now getting back onto it. Now, you've done a very great job, and just for everyone, like back in the day, doing a lot of resi or high volume or specky sort of stuff, and tapping in a lot of different markets from an electrical and data point of view, to really now being in that high end residential sort of architectural market there. And you've definitely known, especially on the northern beaches and northern suburbs of Sydney, you've done a great job of positioning yourself in there. And that all comes down to two things. Number one, you're solving a lot of problems. Okay, you're solving a lot of problems for this particular customer, because you're not trying to solve problems for everyone, but just this type of customer, this A-class customer that we love. Okay, you're solving problems. More importantly, by solving those problems, you're adding value to that customer. Correct? So, because what we always talk about, it's not about the price. People will sort of start looking at price when they don't see value. Even if you go in a low price and you don't deliver value, they're still going to think they're ripped off, right? But what we're about is all about value. It's all about making sure we're delivering the right solutions to the problems. Now, how has that been, your focus on that market? What are some of the key things that you've been working on and developing as a leader over the last few years to really improve your business to business and build those relationships with those high-end A-class clients?
Like you said, like the pricing's one thing, and being preferred on price isn't what we're about. We're about the trust that we're in people's homes, and they often leave us, in their homes when they go off to work, before COVID anyway. And they just open the door, we let ourselves out in the way, and they're trusting us that we're going to do the right thing. They're trusting that we know we're going to put the right parts in. A lot of our customers we've had, like you said, for 15 years, and we don't forget what helped us get to where we are. The people that we did a house for 15 years ago, if we can help them with the right products today, we'll do that. We don't want to bring in with any little niggling issues. So we put the best stuff in. We think that we'll solve their problem.
You don't cut corners.
Yeah, for quite some time. We want them to just ring up and want more, not ring up and want us to go back and fix things. Which all products you can have issues with, but most of the products we try to recommend are things that we'd put in our own houses.
Yeah. And that's that thing about that understanding what their needs are. So you're not trying to, again, sort of put in a solution that's for a low level or a different sort of customer. It's just like, we only deal with one type of customer. We understand this is the best solution. And that's a good thing. Yeah, your team's confident in delivering high value and high quality products.
Yep.
And then just that maintaining it, but just how important is it too, again, just by having how easy is it clearly focusing on one type of market? And this comes back to the sales pipeline. So, having that sales pipeline gives you confidence, knowing that because when we talk about everyone, this is what I want you to understand. When we talk about the sales pipeline, it's not about just filling the sales pipeline with 6 months of work with any types of customers. We're talking that Peter's done a great job of filling your pipeline for the next 6 months with A-class clients. So A-class clients that are going to deliver, that'll achieve their budget. So how important is that? Again, just burn that confidence of, and the just that, I suppose, that familiarity with the same type of client, the same type of problem, same type of processes. Your team can just roll with it. How much easier is that too for operating a business as well?
Oh, so much easier. You just know when we go and get for a day's work, we kind of know what we're up against. We know who we're going to deal with, and nothing's uncharted kind of thing. Like we can deal with it as a group, and deliver a really good result for the customer and providing value, and hopefully they'll get us back to do something else in the future or recommend us. We've really had no marketing for like the whole time we've been going. The only marketing is the sign writing on the vans, really.
Well, the marketing is, remember, you have been doing marketing. It's actually delivering good value. And this is where a lot of people actually fail to understand that. Is that if you do the best job you can and deliver value and deliver on your expectations, that's the best type of marketing, because they're going to actually come back to you. A lot of people need a lot of external marketing because they never get referred back. They never get the clients coming back. So your marketing is bringing your A game to the client, bringing your A game to planning, getting the team on board. So, and that's the key thing where, again, those subtle little changes you made over a long period of time, again, just getting into that really niche market now, and you're well positioned there in that market. Now, the final sort of part of the puzzle, with the processes and then the structure and what you've been putting in there, which obviously, to fine tune everything, how important is it? How much of you, and this is where it comes back to the group, who you circulate with. If you want to be a high performer, you want to be hanging around high performing individuals. But as part of our, the Q Performance community and other sharing off and leveraging off other, business leaders and tradie business owners' stories, how powerful has that been, leveraging off the community?
Oh, you feel pretty inadequate at times listening to some of the skills that these guys have and some of the ideas, and I think we all share them and borrow the ideas off one another, which has been amazing. Like for one example, one of the guys, I think Will explained that he was having team breakfasts. I think we've all kind of taken it on.
I think everyone now is doing on a Monday morning team breakfast. That's it. Let's go.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Set up the week.
Yeah, so we do it every fortnight. We kind of offered the team leaders, if they want to run their own breakfast every other week, they can. But the results have been, outstanding from those kind of things. Get together, get the stuff out of the truck, put new stuff in the trucks, just get organised for the week, have a chat. If learn as a group together, all those little things that in that community that we all share amongst each other's been, and having the support that it can be lonely if you spend hours by yourself running a small business, and just knowing that you're not alone, that we're all in a similar boat.
I think that's a key thing there, where because it's tough running a ship, leading organization. It does get lonely, and I think this is where for any business owner that needs to be wants to improve, you've got to look at the group that you're circulating with. There's nothing worse if you're continually you're a business owner, you're hanging around with other tradie business owners, and they're in that tradie mindset, and it's all about the blame game or a whinge, and they're it's all about price, and it's going to be hard for you to get out of that cycle. Whereas you want to be in a right community that can actually help you thrive and grow and support you, and that's where you've been great, obviously a contributor, contributing great stuff to the community as well. But I think that's a key thing, is that one of the aspects that for you is that your ability to be open to learning, but more importantly to apply new things. So the community, everyone, that's so important. So make sure you're in the right thriving community. Again, success leaves clues, everyone. Success leaves. You do not have to reinvent the wheel. It's all about just plugging into what works. Hey, happy days. Yep. And I think that's really important for any business success, mate. So and credit to what you've achieved and your journey, over the last X many years, 6 or so years that we've been on board, and looking forward to the next chapter. So one of the things, just as a takeaway, mate, just for a business owner there that may be struggling with time at the moment, maybe, is it all worth it? Again, in your words, I'm just burnt out, I'm out of here. What's the one sort of takeaway that as a recommendation or a tip for them to sort of tap into?
I think you need support. It doesn't. You need support from someone who knows as well. It can't just be a shoulder to cry on or something. You need like someone to point you in the right direction. Someone that's seen it before, because it's not new. We all go through the ups and downs, but you just need that, like you said, the community around you, and make habits that aren't just revolving around you just going to work and doing a day on the tools. Block out some time. I block out parts of your calendar. If it's only to start off with, if it's once a fortnight, just block out a small part of the week and just concentrate on improving the business. Like, I think one of the things we first worked on is, what do you get the most phone calls about? If you're getting all these phone calls, you haven't communicated well enough to start with your team or your customer. So we try to, and we're always evolving. We're always trying to improve something. It might not work first go, so get better at it. Try it again, and I don't know, just slowly make I don't know. What do you improve it?
It's a process evolution.
Process evolution, and just delegate, automate, delegate. Pretty well bin it, isn't it?
That's right. Automate, delegate, or bin it. That's right. If it's no good, get rid of it. You're right. So, yeah, what are those things that sort of, it's sucking up a lot of your time? But what you're alluding to there is that, because a lot of people say they'll try and put a new process in or a new habit in, and they say, oh, it doesn't work. But, it's that what we're trying to, you create a process, then you actually implement it, then you test the results, then you modify it again, and then you go again. And
in the valley of disappointment, you call it.
The valley of disappointment, that's right.
We've been through a few of those valleys. And it does. You start climbing back out, and you try. You can see something's not going right, and you tinker with it again, and you go back down. It goes back down again. Then on the other side, you come up the hill, and that's
right.
It works for you.
That's right. Because in that valley of disappointment, everyone, what we're talking about there is often you think, it'll only take a month and I'll be right, or maybe take a year. But generally it takes a lot longer. And that's when you're riding through the valley of disappointment, where you think that you've actually wasted your time, where you haven't actually wasted your time. It's called like latent potential. Okay. So it's still there. And then when you cross that line, it's like, oh, finally, and that's when you hear people like being like an overnight success after battling for 10 years. Right. But that's that whole persistence there, and that mindset of we're playing a long game. And that's that key thing as a business owner. Yeah. Some things work, and it doesn't mean it's not the right thing. It just means it needs that refinement and going back again. But no, look, really appreciate it, Pete. Great story. Thanks for sharing that. And for those listeners, a lot of great takeaways there that you can really sort of apply. And obviously on your journey as a business owner, everyone's got their own little story that's happening. So I'm sure you can tap into Peter's story. So as always, mate, really appreciate it.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Look forward to keep building for the rest of the year.
That'll be good. And beyond.
And beyond, for sure. 5 more years.
Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, mate. Bye.
Thanks, mate.